out of 21 judges you are supposed to have at the Supreme Court, you only have 11.
Yes. The legislature is the first estate of the realm.
Okay.
It's the most powerful organ of government.
The Chief Justice of Nigeria is too powerful.
It is something that should be visited urgently.
Welcome to Noble TV Live. With me in the studio here now is no other person than Gray Amona. And of course, I'm going to ask him some questions relating to the composition of the justices of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. The reason for this is because a man who was a justice of the Supreme Court recently bowed out of office, by way of retirement. And during the occasion of his valedictory reception or something, the man said the composition of the judiciary or the members of the Supreme Court, that's the justice there now, is not balanced. He specifically said there are no representation from North Central and the Southeast. In addition to the fact that as against 21 are supposed to be there, 25 justices, we only have 11 or 10 or thereabout. So these are some of the issues that Gray Amona will be looking into and seeking your own opinion, hoping that by the time you make your comment, some other persons will join us in the conversation, making it a robust one. Thank you very much for being there as always. So, Gray Amona, you're welcome to the program.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Yes, the man called Justice Musa Datijo, yes, he just retired from the Supreme Court. And last Friday, during his valedictory section, he made some allegations. One of which is that the CJN, so that the Chief Justice of Nigeria, is too powerful, and his powers, is not good enough for a good judicial system. He mentioned specifically that the man is in charge of, apart from being in charge of the Supreme Court, he's in charge of the Judicial Service Commission. He's also in charge of the Judicial Training Center or Training Institution. He's also in charge of legal practitioners' privileges council, amongst others. That these powers are so weighty that this man can be responsible for single-handedly appointing a justice or a judge at the Supreme Court level. So these are the issues the man actually raised. I don't know whether are you comfortable with this kind of insinuation, or maybe the man is just making the mountain out of the molehill.
Yes. Well, the mountains are molehills. Let them live in their peace.
Okay.
So we now look at events from detachment.
Okay.
Well, the coincidence, with regarding this development, the coincidence is that the predecessor of the incumbent, was not also subjected, to such a scathing criticism of the system. I'm not saying Justice Datijo, carried out some kind of scathing criticism of a person, but about the system.
Yeah.
But the coincidence is that, and that coincidence is important for the tenor of analysis, because if analysis is subjective, it no longer it should be regarded as such. Analysis is supposed to be not prescriptive, but descriptive, what actually happened. Well, let's start with the composition of the Supreme Court before we talk about. Or do you want us to start with the past?
No, just
past?
Yeah, whatever.
Well, let's look at the one that pricks most, pricks the judgmental conscience most. That's the supposed resounding powers and leverage of the Chief Justice of the Federation, rather. Well, we have inherited Westminster bureaucracy from the British. And of course, the judiciary is a sensitive component of that bureaucracy. So whatever powers or array of privileges that accrue to an incumbent, regarding the office of the Chief Justice of the Federation, they culturally originate, from what our, the colonial praetors,
No, take it again. Take it again.
Yes.
Is it justified for the Chief Justice of Nigeria to have the power to appoint 80%?
That's the array of powers and privileges. So is it justifiable? If we are concerned about whether it's justifiable, then let us temporarily forget about where these powers originate, whether it is excusable, given the nature of our federation. Because when we say it is justifiable, we're implying that we have, a system of checks and balances, that is ensconced, in constitutionalism. So the system of checks and balances ought to, make way or provide for distribution, of offices between people in the system, so that if those powers are concentrated in one man, it creates an autocratic system. That's what I'm implying. So as we have the system prevailing, they may be overwhelming, for the kind of balance and equity we're supposed to associate the system with. He has the power to appoint, the power to carry out other corresponding offices and privileges. They may be too, they create a system of autocratic power. So, but then it's a body that's supposed to actually review these precedents.
Judicial Council.
Judicial Council, exactly. The JCN.
Yes.
Judicial Council of Nigeria.
He is also at the head. He's the head of that council.
Okay, so for now, the picture creates a system of autocratic power. That's the truth. So that originated from Britain or not, all of them concentrated in one man, is rather too autocratic. But then, Korodumilo, who will now, bear the cat, who will move the process that will create a revaluation, because that's why the powers are too concentrated in one person.
Okay, now the man went further to say that in the country, as part of the arrangement originally to actually ensure balance of representation, that two geopolitical zones are not represented amongst the Supreme Court judges.
North
It mentions
Central.
specifically North Central and Southeast.
Yes.
Now, yes, Southeast, there was somebody there who died. One died in April last year.
Yes.
Another one died just around May or so this year.
Yes.
That's the Mweke, or Mweze died Mweze died about
Honorable Justice Mweze.
about 3 months ago or something. So of course, which means somebody was there before.
Yes.
And it's just that the vacancy has not been filled now by now.
Yes.
And according to this justice, not even him, according to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, he said that there was a vacancy position, there were vacancy positions that were actually advertised some time ago, and people were asked to apply, including senior lawyers, lawyers that have served there up to 15 years and above, which was a major requirement. But unfortunately, when they were recruiting, that was the last recruitment, they recruited only judges from the appeal court. Now, this kind of arrangement where you just select a few from a particular area, neglecting the other area, because one expected that maybe you want to tap into the experience of lawyers who have been practicing to mix them up with people who have been practicing at the bar. Now, what is your take on this inability or not, a refusal
to capture
of the authority to now make sure that they bring up a new kind of a species, as it were, into the system as judges?
Fundamentally, first, that development, it runs counter to the concept of federal character. There ought to be proportional representation. And then one of the geopolitical zones just fingered, happens to be a major contributor to the national development process, the Southeast. And it is not an area that has been starved, relatively speaking, of eggheads, in the legal department. So that's an area that the system ought to revisit, because it smacks of injustice. Then if it also affects the North Central and Southeast are specifically, mentioned as subjects of this kind of disproportional representation, it is not a fair thing, and it is something that the National Judicial Council should wade into, because
headed by the Chief Justice of Nigeria.
Headed by Chief Justice of Nigeria, who is the judge is the lawyer, is the adjudicator. That is why I say,
and he's also in charge of disciplinary measures and against erring lawyers and judges.
So that is why we say the bars are too concentrated in the CJN. But coming back to the issue of disproportional representation, it is something that should be visited urgently. Not only to take care of the problem of equity and justice, but also federal character, which is inscribed in the Constitution.
Now, the issue has been raised at the House of Representatives, the House of Representatives has actually raised a motion and promising that they were going to look into critically the issues that were raised by Musa Datijo. Now, do you see the House of Representatives actually coming up with a resolution that will actually change this scenario? Because out of 21 judges you are supposed to have at the Supreme Court, you only have 11.
Yes.
Now, how would the intervention of the House of Representatives solve this problem? Is it that they're going to intervene on the prevail on the CGN, or they want to now? I don't know. How are they going to do it?
The legislature is the first estate of the realm.
Okay.
It's the most powerful organ of government.
Okay.
And there's a House Committee on the judiciary.
Okay.
So the House Committee on Judiciary, will do well to revisit the existing situation by recommending. And these recommendations will not be taken lightly. Otherwise, it could lead to constitutional crisis.
Okay, and the recommendation may include the fact that they should kind of diverge power from
enlarge the structure and make for equity and justice, because it is a paradox that an institution that connects with equity and justice is found to be practicing the very opposite of equity and justice.
Okay, so thank you very much, Gray Amona. Here we are ended this topic, and believing that you have had all that Gray Amona actually postulated on the composition of Nigerian the Supreme Court judges. Now he has said, if you concentrate power so much on one person, it will ultimately lead to a kind of autocracy. And if there is no equity in terms of appointment and composition of the Supreme Court judges, it may also lead to imbalance in the system. And therefore, he recommends that the House of Representatives, particularly the committee in charge of the judiciary, should do the needful by maybe reducing the powers that the CGN actually enjoys presently, and also prevail on the CGN to ensure that more judges are employed, not just from the judicial arm of the legal profession, but also from the legal practitioners angle, so that this thing can be actually balanced. So on this note, we're going to call it a day on this just this topic, because we're coming back again with some other things. But for you, just don't forget to click the notification button, but beyond that, comment and share, so that people can also have the feeling of what we have done here this day. Thank you very much for being with us.